I think Stagecoach is a remarkable example of how somebody with a strong entrepreneurial instinct and a real feel for the operation of public transport can make a big success and can carve out and sustain a substantial area in the face of competition.
News from Knight Frank International. Beaufort Castle Estate, one of the most ancient and unique pieces of Scottish property, has been sold on the instructions of the executors of the late Master of Lovat to Mrs. Anne Globe at Stagecoach.
This private ancestral castle in the Scottish Highlands is home to ospreys and red kite. It became a measure of Anne's success last year, costing just over two of her reputed £200 million fortune. Brother Brian has his own castle, secretly tucked away in Scotland too. That was a snip at £500,000. They're regular attenders at this evangelical church in Perth. Suter sees Christianity and capitalism as bedfellows.
Ethics are not irrelevant, but some are incompatible with what we have to do, because capitalism is based on greed.
They started with very little money. They started from pretty poor circumstances, and they built an industrial empire. And that must be a good thing. The more people can do that in Britain, the more successful Britain's going to be.
In the beginning, it was different. The Conservative government wanted to smash the state monopoly in buses, bring in competition, let everyone have their own bus service. It was simple. You bought a bus and registered with the traffic commissioners. 6 weeks later, you were on the road. 10 years on, the public monopoly has been replaced by private ones. The big boys of the bus industry have divided up the country. It seems not everyone can run a bus service. As bus wars have shown, the winner takes all.
It's real frontier capitalism. It is absolutely a case of the end justifying the means. And in the Wild West, if you had to kill to survive, that's what you did. And in the bus industry in Britain in the past 10 years, if you had to kill to survive, that's what they've done too.
Anne's former husband, Robin Gloag, remembers the early days well. He helped to found Stagecoach. To break into the free market, they needed originality, enterprise, and a name.
It was Brian's brother, actually, who thought of the name Stagecoach. You know, there was 2 or 3 names that was bandied about. There was Blunderbuss, and Brian had suggested, I think it was Our Bus, because he was adamant at that stage that he was a socialist.
From this small industrial unit in Perth to wider frontiers. Initially, life on the Scottish frontier was mean. Competition had to be seen off. The first to go were Tay Valley coaches.
They started a service from Dundee to Edinburgh and Glasgow, which Stagecoach obviously immediately responded to. First of all, they dropped the fares. Then on a Friday evening, it was the first coach was actually free. So obviously there was a mad stampede for that, and then reduced fares after that. I think Tay Valley realised there was no future in it, and decided to cut the losses and just pull off.
Toby, why does Stagecoach do things like that?
It's just the basic way of working. They've always worked that way. Stifle the competition before it has time to affect them.
So basically, put in a situation where their services were uneconomical because there was nobody left to travel on the coaches by one way or the other. So he just stopped.
3 soon became a crowd. Anne Gloag decided her business loyalty lay with her brother, not with her husband. In 1983, Robin Gloag was invited to sign this handwritten document, divorcing him from the company.
I suppose between them they had decided that I was surplus to requirements.
So you were dropped. Could you tell me what the deal was?
Oh yes, I got a bus and a car and I think £5,000 worth of consultancy fees.
And then within the year, a marital divorce. Robin set up his own company, calling it Highwayman couldn't save him. Stagecoach decided Perth wasn't big enough for both of them.
It was just a fair cutting exercise. One company reduced the fares, the other one responded, cut them a bit lower. The first one a bit lower still, till effectively they were running a free service, which has always been their ultimate backup. That if all else fails, then run the service free.
Describe the situation to me on the Perth Errol Road at the time of the bus war. Hot. What would I see? Probably about 3, 4, 5 stagecoaches to one highwayman, perhaps. All going in the same direction.
6 weeks later, Highwayman was off the bus route. The role of Stagecoach in the demise of Darlington Transport in 1994 has become a bus folk legend. Stagecoach's subsidiary Busways wanted to get into the Darlington bus market. Having failed in their bid to buy the already ailing company, they tried other tactics.
They came in and they took our drivers. They offered them a 3-year contract, £1,000 incentive and a higher rate of pay.
And they found the easiest way of setting up bus routes. They just copied Darlington Transport's, literally.
They simply photocopied our registration, just used them, just changed the name of Darlington Transport and the signature, just changed it to Busways and signed it themselves.
World in Action obtained those registrations. They were strangely alike, apart from minor changes. Route 8 became Route 58, thanks to some hard work with a pen. We asked a forensic handwriting expert to look more closely.
These are photocopies of the same original document, on which small alterations have been made to make one different from the other. The Route 8 and 8A have been changed to 58 and 58A by the addition of the figure 5 in front of the 8, made by a different writer.
So, if the timetables were exactly alike, what about the maps?
They too have been derived from the same hand-drawn route map. The labels had been changed, but the route itself had not. Another label had been stuck over the top of the previous one, and then the different company name put on.
Now Stagecoach was targeting the opposition route by route. Time for the killer punch. Free buses. This is lethal to a smaller struggling company. Once they fold, Stagecoach can take control and are free to put the fares up. The Office of Fair Trading, the OFT, and the Monopolies and Mergers Commission were called in.
Well, that's predatory pricing, and that's certainly that's OFT. That's an OFT situation, and therefore you go straight to OFT and say, look, this is unfair. This is unfair pricing. What's much more difficult is if they price 1% or 2% or 3% below you, because that's competition. But if it's free, that's easy. I mean, that's OFT.
Darlington Transport died. 9 months later, the Monopolies Commission was damning of Stagecoach's behaviour. They called it deplorable and against the public interest.
If a government established body which is essentially judging behaviour in the economic environment, in the societal environment, describes something as deplorable, then certainly you've got to listen. Because if you don't listen, in the medium term and the longer term, your interests will truly suffer.
The whole business over Darlington, which was something of a disaster, and one hopes that would not be repeated now, it was impossible for the companies that suffered to get anything back, because by the time the Monopolies and Mergers Commission had dealt with it, they were out of business. There's a real weakness in the system there.
Here it took just 4 days for the Stagecoach free buses to crush the local bus company.
Words just fail me, absolutely fail me. Dear me, it's just beyond belief, beyond belief.
The marshals of the MMC have yet to find a punishment Stagecoach will accept. Darlington is the biggest official slap on the wrist for Stagecoach. Over the years, the MMC have berated them for crippling a company in Lancaster, building up monopolies on the English south coast, and trying to buy into them in Yorkshire and Glasgow, 8 times in total. But so long as Stagecoach please customers, does it matter if they displease competitors?
Competition law just, it simply is a joke, and the Stagecoach cottoned on very early to the fact that it was the all-time paper tiger. What has repeatedly happened is that Stagecoach have been into an area, done exactly as they liked, used whatever tactics suited them, and then months or years later along come the sort of plods from the Office of Fair Trading and the Monopolies and Mergers Commission and say this was really all very wicked. By that time, Stagecoach are 3 counties down the road doing exactly the same thing in another half dozen areas.
The weakest go to the wall, but Stagecoach ambushes the strong too. Down the road from Darlington in South Shields, Trevor Brown's company prospered from bus deregulation and made a niche for itself. Then the Stagecoach came to town.
I had a discussion with the directors in this very pub actually, and the conversation more or less went, we want to try and regain our market share.
The man from Stagecoach didn't mince his words.
Well, he didn't sell was flat. Stick me in Stagecoach. We're a family company. We've worked from very hard. My father's worked very hard all these years. We've built it to what it is now. And somebody comes along and said that to you, you've been annoyed as well. After the meeting, obviously, they immediately registered bus services 2 months in front of my bus services. And it's been like that ever since.
Can you tell me why you think they did that?
I drive off the road, put out of business.
The Monopolies Commission investigated this too. They're still trying to agree a punishment with Stagecoach. The northern tip of cowboy country, Peterhead, northeast Scotland. Stagecoach is big here. The small local operator is Rogers Coaches.
I felt there was an opening or a gap in the market, if you like, for the commuter route between Peterhead and Aberdeen, you know, for a high-class service, you know, using coaches rather than buses.
This time, the ambush took a different form. Pirates flying the Jolly Roger appeared in Peterhead.
They were plain white buses, unlettered, unmarked, no identification at all relating to their bus company. And across the windscreen, where we have Rogers in front and top of our screens, they had Jolly Roger, which I thought was an extremely bad taste. They played a sort of leapfrog game. You know, one bus would shoot away picking up the passengers, the other one would dawdle, holding us up. And if the bus picking up passengers went into a bus lay-by, a bus stop, the one behind it would dawdle and block the carriageway so we didn't get ahead of them. And they were virtually reduced to picking up no passengers, apart from the ones that, you know, the loyal ones that wanted to give another firm an equal chance.
Stagecoach shared his site in Peterhead, but neighbourly love didn't last long. After 3 increasingly unprofitable months, Peter Cowie realised his niche in the market was non-existent. A man from Stagecoach asked for a showdown.
He made it quite clear that none of us were achieving anything, and they could quite easily step up their actions. And made it quite clear that the easiest option for me was to go off the route.
Stagecoach had won another victory. But in business, do morals matter?
Corporate ethics are not only a code, but they're common sense. If you don't behave in an ethical way and you don't behave sensibly, then essentially you lose your license to operate. You lose it morally, ethically, and in the end, you lose it legally, and that cannot be sensible.
The Stagecoach has come to many towns worldwide. Now, with over 8,000 buses, 24,000 workers, the company is valued at £750 million. But there's another secret to Stagecoach's success: public money. Right from the start, Fred Spresser helped Stagecoach profit from a government subsidy, the fuel duty rebate. This is a tax rebate on the cost of fuel and can be claimed so long as your buses stop every 15 miles. It was meant for town buses, but Stagecoach, like others, put stops along their long-distance routes to make sure they could claim it. So what was it worth?
It was substantial. It probably meant the difference between profit and loss and success or failure.
So the taxpayer was subsidising Stagecoach and making a difference between profit and loss for them?
Indirectly, yes.
Stagecoach themselves admit to receiving over £23 million in fuel duty rebate last year, more than half their declared profits of £41 million.
It is still very questionable whether a blanket subsidy on fuel is the best, most efficient or most effective way of actually running a bus service. I don't think it is. The Public Accounts Committee in 1989 didn't think it is. We're still waiting for a response from the government.
Stagecoach's wealth was found initially on the cheap disposal of public assets, which they then sold dear. They sold off the bus stations for more than they paid for the bus companies. And now they run almost entirely, in terms of profitability, on taxpayer subsidy. It's a disguised subsidy, but it's a subsidy, okay. And really, if everybody's profits were funded almost exclusively by taxpayers' money, then an awful lot of us could be multi-millionaires.
I think because of our bus networks that we have, that we can provide an integrated service. People can be picked up from their door by bus and taken into the rail stations.
1992, time to move on to the railroad. Stagecoach had a go, running a sit-down sleeper from Scotland to London. It failed. 1995, the first private rail franchise. South West Trains went to Stagecoach. The prize, a captive market, one of the richest areas of Britain. The chance to establish those bus rail links and a cool £54 million public subsidy a year.
One thing we have never been accused of is of not improving service, not investing, or not being innovative. And we believe these are the qualities that are going to be required to get passengers back on the railway.
He said to me very frankly that they hadn't at first intended to go into rail privatisation, but while everyone else was worrying about the politics of it, they looked at the arithmetic. And what they realised was that whereas 2 years ago there was £800 million of taxpayer subsidy going into the railways, there's now £1.8 billion. So he said very honestly, I just said to myself, we're going to have some of that £1 billion. And they are going to have some of that £1 billion. And once again, the taxpayer will finance the extraordinary business success of Stagecoach.
The Isle of Thanet, Kent. In May, Stagecoach slashed their prices. They called it May Madness. Customers gained in the short term. The big loser was Thanet Bus, Stagecoach's main local rival. Thanet joined the price war, but were driven to the brink of ruin. Most of their income comes from one route alone, just where Stagecoach slashed the prices. And here they appear to have made use of a familiar tactic, the white bus.
There are buses painted white. Our buses are painted white as well. Buses running with relief up. What are they relieving? None of the Stagecoach buses were full. None of mine were full either. I think the purpose of the buses are quite simple. The purpose of buses is to pick up any passengers that may be left by any of the other vehicles to make sure that we don't pick them up.
1 month's price cuts for Stagecoach won't mean ruin, but May Madness could spell the end of the road for Thanet Bus.
We're just like the suitors. We're a family firm. There's me, my wife, my son-in-law, my daughter, and my granddaughter. It's her inheritance that they're trying to take away.
If Stagecoach decide to put a small company out of business, then that is precisely what they do, one way or another, by hook or by crook. And as Mr. Souter has frequently said, there's a hard way and there's an easy way. And word has long since got around that if you want to save yourself a cornery and probably quite a lot of money and an awful lot of worry, then give up early, sell out.
Or just sell the assets. Stagecoach made early profit selling city centre bus stations bought for a song from the government. Today, bus depots like Canterbury, Kent make valuable housing land. The buses, they park in the driver's car park at night. Stagecoach refused to take part in this programme. The Scottish steamroller simply rolls on. Colin Wright and his family fear it will crush them.
I'll fight to the bitter end. Because it's something I've always wanted, my own bus company, having worked in the industry for so long.
Does the bitter end mean losing your house, losing your home, losing everything?
Yes, it means everything.
No independent man is an island. I thought we might involve Freddie in that unfinished business with